Welcome to this series of lectures in the course of Advances in the Employment Development. This is the fourth lecture in this series. Let us have a quick recap of what we have done so far. We have seen that in order to successful in your employment, you not only have to have the necessary technical skills, but you should also have the other kind of skills which will generate the employability, the skills like team working. So, in order to be successful, you have to inculcate within you the spirit of team building and team working. And in order to do that, we have followed a model of Stephen Covey's book of 7 habits. And this book says that in order to be successful as a team working person, you have to first inculcate yourself. So, there are 7 skills in all or 7 habits in all, of which first 3 habits are to do with the personal victory. And the book says that your personal victory precedes your social victory. So, in order to be a good individual, in order to be a good team member, you have to have 3 habits. First habit is to be proactive. Being proactive means you are working according to your own script. You are not working according to other people's script. You are not reactive, you are proactive. Second habit tells us about to begin with the end in mind. What is the end? End is the purpose for which we are striving, the purpose for which we are working. So, keep in mind, visualize what is going to be the end of the things, and then accordingly you have to have your steps taken according to that particular script which you have developed it for yourself. Third habit was to do with putting the first thing first. By first thing, what we mean is the right thing. So, we had talked about the right things, we had talked about the second quadrant, in which we are doing the not urgent, but important things. So, that is what we had done in our first 3 habits. Now, we are going to move from dependent, we have already moved from the habits which takes us from dependent person to be an independent person. Now, we take a step further and we see how we can be interdependent from our current status of being independent. Before we move to this fourth habit, let us talk about the interdependence. So, when we talk about the interdependence, and we have seen in all along in this particular series of lectures that we do not wish to have a quick fix solution, we do not wish to have solutions which will give a immediate solution, but we are looking for the long term solutions. So, in order to have a long term relationship or in order to have a long term effect, we have to see how we build our relationships. And when we do that, we can take an analogy of a bank account. So, that account is called as the emotional bank account. It is something like a bank in which, just like when we put our money in a bank, we put our money in terms of rupees. Here the money is the trust. Our bank account works on the currency of trust. It is the trust which is deposited there, and it is the trust which is withdrawn from that account. How do we do credit? How do we put money into the bank is we go to the bank and deposit the money. In the similar manner, how do we deposit? How do we do the credit into this emotional bank account is through a number of ways. We can do it through courtesy, through honesty, through keeping our promises, and to be kind. So, these are the ways in which we develop trust with the other people. When you show courtesy to other people, your bank account with that person has increased, it has risen. When you show honesty, when you are honest with the people, then those people will have more trust with you, and that is how we say that your bank account has increased. When we make promises and keep our promises with that particular person, then he will trust you more. That means the bank account has more currency of trust for that particular person. And how do we do debit? That means how do we withdraw from that account is through discourtesy. When we do not show courtesy, when we are rough, we are not properly in a proper manner, when we do not act in proper manner, when we are arbitrary, when we do something in particular manner and we have mood swings, sometimes we act in a very generous manner and sometimes we are very arbitrary. In that way, the person will think that this person, I do not know how to behave with this person. Sometimes he is very generous, sometimes he is very kind, sometimes he is not at all kind. So, when we are having that kind of a habit of working according to our whims, then the bank account will not develop. When we threaten somebody, when we ignore somebody, when we show disrespect to other people, when we do not keep our promises, then the deposits whatever we have accumulated in that account with that person will keep on diminishing, and he will still have some faith, but the faith will not be as much as earlier it was, and after a certain point the faith will be in negative and the person will not have trust with you. This is the analogy which we have kept in mind, we have to keep in mind, because this analogy we are going to encounter in all through the level, the habit 4, 5 and 6 and even in 7. Now, we can make 6 major kinds of deposit. In order to make deposit in the emotional bank, we have to understand the individual. There is an example which is given in the book, and in that example the moral of the story is, to make a deposit, what is important to other person must be as important to you as the other person is to you. Suppose the other person is your employer, and suppose you have, according to whatever your priorities are, you give 75% priority to your employer. Then what is important to your employer is 75% as important to you. This is what this particular statement says. So, he has given an example of a person who was not at all interested in basketball, but his son was extremely in the interest of the basketball. He wanted to learn basketball. So, he wanted to, he became very interested in that particular game. So, what this person did was he took all his time with the son, and he used to show him all the basketball games. He used to take him to the various matches where the basketball was being played. He took 6 weeks time with his son, and after when he came back, people say, we did not know you like basketball so much. He said, no, I do not like the basketball so much, but I like my son that much. So, what was important to his son was as much important to this person. So, this is the important principle, is that whatever is important to other person should be as much important to you as that person is to you. Another way of making deposit is to attend to little things. You can do small things here and small thing there, and that makes a difference. Every small step we take, every small gesture which we make, every small acts of kindness which we do adds to our deposit. There is an example given in the book about his son who was feeling cold, and the author gave his coat to him, and his other person felt a little bit jealous about it, and he said, are you going to do the same thing if I am feeling cold? So, this is a very small thing, he might not have kept in his mind, but these small things matter. Keeping commitments. When we make commitments and keep our commitment, we make major deposits in our emotional bank account. When we clarify expectation, a communication takes place when there is a two-way communication, when we speak as well as we listen. Whenever we have an expectation, we should very clearly specify what our expectations are, and the other person should also understand what those expectations are. So, to by clarifying our expectation, we build the deposit in our emotional bank. When we show personal integrity, we make the deposit in the account. Suppose you are talking with somebody and you are talking about somebody else who is not present, and suppose you are not talking in a very good sense, you are making complaints about that particular person, then the person who is talking to you, he will feel that if I were absent, he might have talked in the same way, in the same spirit, maybe he would have criticized me. So, we should not criticize people who are not present. We have to be loyal to those people who are absent. So, this is a way to show the personal integrity. Whatever we do, our actions speak louder than words. So, whenever we act in a particular manner, person will understand, he will have a feeling that this is how this person behaves with the other persons. The kind of examples which we give, these examples are remembered by other people, and they feel that this is how this person behaves with other people, and this is how he is behaving with me. In the same way, he may be behaving with the other persons also. So, if you are keeping integrity, that means you are being loyal to those people who are absent. And whenever we make withdrawal from this emotional account, that means our trust level is decreasing, we should realize, we should make amend, and we should say sincerely that we regret having made the withdrawal. Suppose you do not keep your promises, you say sincerely that I apologize, and the other person will understand that this person really means that he is sorry about whatever commitment he could not make, and he will henceforth be making the commitments and keeping it, and the other person will make the deposit higher up. The deposit with that person will increase whenever we withdraw and make sincere apologies and we really mean it. Then this is another way of keeping our promises and keeping our deposits in a higher state. Now, let us come to the proper topic of the lecture. It is to think win-win. This is the fourth habit of thinking win-win. This is the habit of interpersonal leadership. That means, so far we were talking about the personal leadership, personal victories. Now, we are going one step ahead, one step further. We are talking about those situations where you are dealing with the other people, and this habit is about leadership. That means doing things right. Doing things right with other people. When you want to do things right with the other people, you should first know how to do things right with yourself. Then only you will be able to do things right with your relationships. So, that is why we said that first three habits are very important. Unless you have mastered habit 1, 2, 3, you will not be able to master the habit fourth, and this will come again and again in this lecture as well as in further lectures. Whenever we interact with other people, we have 6 types of interactions. Suppose I want something from some person, and that person also wishes to have something from me. For example, suppose we are buying and selling. Somebody is buying and other person is purchasing. Then this is an interaction. In such interaction, our motives or our mentality may be one of 6 kind. It could be thinking win-win. That means, I should also get whatever I want to get, and he should also get what he wishes to get. Win-lose means, I should get all the things, and this person should get least of the things. Say he should feel lost. I should feel won, he should feel lost. The third way of interaction could be lose-win. That means, it does not matter, I am not going to win it. I do not, so far my history was very bad. So, I will not be able to win this particular game or win this particular relationship or in this particular interaction, I will be losing, and thus this person is very strong, he has won all along. So, I am going to lose it. So, this could be one way of looking at the things, and this is called as the lose win mentality. Third or rather next mentality is lose lose, that I also will be losing, but I will take you along. I will be sinking in the boat, but I will make sure that you also will be sinking. So, this is the lose lose way of thinking. Next way of thinking is win, that I want to win. I do not care whether you are also winning or you are losing, I do not care. I must win, I do not care about the rest of the people. Suppose we are going to some place in a train, I must have my seat properly in a proper place. If you are also having a comfortable seat, it does not matter, or if you are not coming along with me, it does not matter. If you do not get the reservation, it does not matter, but I must get a reservation, I must get a proper comfortable seat, and that is the end of the story. This kind of mentality is called as the win mentality. Then next is the or last one is the win-win or no deal. This is a single mentality, that you should also win, I should also win, and if that is not happening, we are not going to have the deal at all. Suppose I am selling my house, then I should get this much money, I should get these many rights, I should have these things done, and you should also, whatever is your expectation should also be fulfilled. You should be also making money in a long run. If that is not happening, we are not calling it a deal. We are going to say bye, or we are going to postpone the things. This is called as the win-win or no deal. Now, these 6 paradigms of interactions have mentalities of mutual benefit. One word is altruism, that means having a very great heart. So, the people who think win-win, they belong to the category of altruist persons. They see mutual benefit in all interactions. The win-lose kind of people, they rely heavily on their authorities. That means, they say that I must win, you are my subordinate, I do not want to listen to you, you are younger than me, I am older than you, I am senior, you are junior, therefore, whatever I have in mind, that will happen, and whatever you have in mind, that is not going to happen. Whatever are your expressions, aspirations, I do not care, they are not going to happen. Whatever I am thinking, this is the way of authority, this is the way of a dictator, this is the way how senior persons are scripted to behave in this society. The lose-win mentality is that I am going to lose, because I have been losing all along. I do not have the guts, I do not have the strength, I am sick, I do not have the knowledge, I do not have sufficient preparation for the examination. Other persons are doing well, other persons are better. This is I am not okay, you are okay, that kind of a mentality, and this is the mentality of a person who is a defeatist person, who is in the mood of depression. The lose-lose mentality, as I have already said, it is the mentality of the person who says that I am going to sink with you. If you are sinking, I will take you along, do not care. Win mentality is that person who has a possessiveness in his nature, that I must have these things, I have always been getting this, I will not stop unless I get whatever I want to. I do not care what happens to you, I do not care with what happens to the rest of the world. If they are making benefit, it does not matter, if they are not making benefit, it does not matter. Whereas, win-win or no deal is the mentality of those people who only think about the mutual benefit or nothing else. So, this is how we have covered the ranges of interaction in the bilateral ties, in the bilateral relationships. Now, there are 5 dimensions of win-win. They are character, relationships, agreement, support system and processes. Mutual learning, it is basically when we talk about the win-win, it is that I am at par with you. It is the thinking of being at par with the other person, even though you may be senior or you may be junior, but you are, when you are thinking win-win, you are thinking in a collaborative manner. In this process, there is a mutual learning. That means both people are at par, both people are at the same footing, and they are mutually learning, they are mutually influencing one another, they are thinking about the benefit being mutual. That means one is benefiting from other is benefiting from the first. That means it is a thinking or habit or mentality of, in biology there is a word, whenever there is a, suppose there is a cow, there are moths, there are crows, whatever are the germs on the skin of the cow, these crows they pick it up. So, it is benefit to the crow as well as to the cow. Cow is getting sanitized and the crow is getting his food. So, this kind of symbiosis or symbiosis is the heart of the win-win mentality. So, there are 5 dimensions. When we talk about the dimensions of character, what we are saying is that, as we already said, we have to begin with ourselves, then only we can move to the other. So, suppose you wish to inculcate the habit of win-win, what characters must be there in you? What kind of mentality you should inculcate? What kind of thought processes you should encourage? That is what we mean by win-win character. So, it is something like beginning with yourself. So, these are the thought processes, these are the mentalities, these are the habits which you should have if you want to have the win-win character. Once you have done this, then you will interact with the other. When you interact with the others, you will have win-win relationships. That means you will be building trust. By all the interactions, you will be thinking that I should also get whatever I want to get, and you should also get whatever you wish to get. And when you do these things, you are building relationships which are the win-win relationships. And when you do that, you can do that by a number of interactions, and these interactions are basically protocols or agreements. These are the win-win agreements or win-win protocols. Once you do these things for a number of persons, for a number of people who share the same thought, same mission, same vision, then you may be having these things done for an organizations. And when you are doing things for the organizations, you are having win-win systems. That means the protocols, the working style, the culture of the organization has the win-win system or win-win support systems. And at the end, we are going to see what is the process of thinking win-win, what is the process of thinking win-win getting into the action, that is what are the processes. Now, let us go one by one into each of these. Win-win character. As I already said, character means it is something which is personal to you. It is something which you have to inculcate within yourself before you are interacting with the others. So, for that, first of all, you should have integrity. Integrity means to be honest to the values. In habit 1, 2, 3, we were talking about your personal agenda, your personal vision, your personal mission. So, whatever you may be your personal vision, mission or your agenda, you should be honest with that. It defines the first win, it defines the concept of win in win-win. How do we say that we are winning? We say that we are winning if we are, whatever we have done, whatever interaction we are entering into, it is supporting our mission and our vision. Then we say that if it has contributed to our mission, then we say that we have won the things, we are winning. If it is going one step behind, then we are saying that we are losing. And honesty to the value of ourselves, this is how it defines the win for us, and for that you should also know what are the values of the other person to define the other win. Win-win has two wins. First win is my win, second win is your win. So, I should know what my values are, what outcomes I want. What outcome I want depends on my personal agenda, personal mission, and I should know the other person's mission also. Then only we will be able to define the win for the next person. And this integrity comes as an outcome of habit 1, 2, 3, because in habit 1, 2 and 3 we were working on our personal mission, and we are going to see it in this particular session as well as in the next session, that whenever we said win-win, we always have a fear of losing something, because if I say win-win, that means I am saying to the other person that I want you to win, and when we are saying other person to the other person that I want you to win, you always have a fear that he will grab everything. Suppose I am selling my house, and I suppose I have my mission is that I should get this much money, because I want to use it for my personal mission. This money is going to be contributing to my mission, and that is for that mission to happen, this much money is required, and the other person is going to make money from selling the house or by holding it or by whatever. Then I should know what his calculations are, and once we share our calculations, it can happen that this person will say that okay, don't you are expecting too much, you will not make this much money, I want more than whatever you are thinking. So, this kind of fear is there in our mind, that he is going to be aggressive, he is going to enter into my premise, he is going to, this kind of fear is there, and that fear is very important. That fear will not be there if you are certain that I am certain about my mission, I am certain about myself, I am very honest to my mission. Once you are confident about your honesty, then only you will be able to open up your cards. You will be able to open up, you will say that does not matter, he will not influence me so much that I will lose my mission. So, for that integrity is important. Then comes the maturity. Maturity is the balance between courage and consideration. Courage means my mission. Courage means telling honestly to the next person that this is my mission. When you have a mission, when you have something which you believe in, then sometimes you may not have the courage to say it openly with confidence to the other person. And if you are not communicating your mission to the other person, he will not understand, and this is not going to happen. This is not going to end with the proper results which you want. So, courage means courage of speaking your mind, courage of communicating your mission to the other person. Consideration is the receiving end. Somebody has communicated his ability to you, his problems to you, his missions to you, and you are considering it, you are thinking about it, you are listening to it, and you are understanding his problems, understanding his needs, understanding his mission, and it is your feeling about other person's mission. So, it is a balance between courage and consideration. So, that courage, that combination, that balance between courage and consideration is called maturity. Now, you can have lose-lose mentality, and when you have lose-lose mentality, you have low balance and low courage and low consideration. That means you are not confident about your own mission, and you are not confident about the other person's mission, or you do not wish to consider what other person is saying. This is the lose-lose mentality or lose-lose way of thinking. When you have lose-win kind of mentality, it is low courage and high consideration. That my mission is not important, your mission is more important. If you are saying this way, because I am not, I am going to lose it and you are going to win it, that means you don't have the courage to speak up your mind. On the other hand, you have very high consideration for other persons. You are ready for him to encroach into your territory. When we are thinking about win-lose mentality, we are high-low. That means high in our courage and low in our consideration. That means whenever we are thinking win from our side, we are thinking high on courage. When we are thinking win on my side, that means I am very confident about my mission. And when I am thinking high about your mission, that means I am high on your consideration. I can consider better, I am more receptive to your needs. So, win-win is high. That means high on consideration and high on courage as well. The third thing which you have to keep in mind, or third thing which you have to inculcate in your system when you want to build a win-win character, is to think in terms of abundance. Abundance means there is enough for everybody. Sometimes what happens, suppose somebody has gone through a very bad days in his childhood, where nothing was available, very few things are available, then he has high value for everything which comes in his mind, on his way, and he becomes possessive. He does not wish to lose anything and everything. Suppose there are siblings and the family is going through bad habits, then each of the person may think that I do not want to give it to other, because if I give it to other, there is hardly anything left would be left for me. So, I do not wish to give it to other person. So, this kind of mentality if somebody has, then he will not be able to think win-win. To think win-win, that means there is enough for everybody. There is enough for me, there is enough for you. So, that when you have that mentality in your mind, then only you will be able to be generous to other as well as be generous to yourself. Being generous does not mean that you are sacrificing yourself. This win-win does not mean giving everything to the other and keeping less to yourself, because this way of thinking will not be sustained. It will not run for long term. It will, you will lose someday you will die, and things are not going to go further. But when you are thinking win-win, that means you are thinking about the other person as well as yourself. So, this system is going to sustain. So, abundance mentality means there is enough for you, enough for me. We are not thinking win-lose or lose-win, or we are not thinking in the zero-sum game. The game like football, where either party will, either India will be winning or Argentina will be winning. It will not happen that both the countries are winning. It will be a tie, that means you are sharing this thing, but this is not how games are played. Now, we are going one step further about the win-win relationships. So, win-win relationships happen when the emotional accounts are rich in the currency of trust. We have already seen what is to be done in order to enrich your emotional account. So, what will happen if there are two parties and one party is thinking win-win, other party is thinking win-win? That means both the parties are thinking win-win. I am also thinking win-win, you are also thinking win-win. What will happen in such a relationship? What will happen in such a relationship is, I will be also benefiting in each of the transaction, you will also be benefiting in each of the transactions, and it will increase our trust, because trust increases whenever you keep promises and you keep it, when you make promises and keep it. Since both the people are doing win-win, there will be more trust, more openness. They will be sharing their ideas in more open manner. They will be telling about their missions in more open manner, because they know that by doing this, they will be both benefiting. They will be benefiting, therefore, they will be sharing their ideas. So, when it is win-win on both the sides, it increases the trust in a long run. It goes to the openness between these kind of people. The real problem comes when you are thinking win-win and other person is thinking win-lose. That means I am opening my cards, I am saying that this is what my expectations are, and I think this is what your expectation should be. If you reach to this conclusion, if we come to a conclusion, these many expectations of mine should be met and these many expectations of your would be met. And if the other person is thinking win-lose, that means he thinks that he should win and you should lose, that means I should lose, that means he will say, if you are thinking win-win, that means there is more territory which I can enter into, I can encroach into, more I can get. So, he will not accept your proposal, he will say, oh, I want more, because unless you lose, he will not be happy, because he is thinking win-lose. So, real test of this habit is when you are meeting a person who is thinking win-lose. Now, what to deal with in such situations? See, whenever we think about the good books, we always say that they are very theoretical, they do not address to the real problems. This does not happen in the real situation. You always have people who want to, if you think this way, win-win and all these things, then one day you will be losing everything, because people will keep on encroaching you. But we also have to see what is to be done when we meet such people. So, when we meet such people, what can be done is we do not hurry up, we do not mess up, we do not hasten into our interactions, we first build trust. We have seen how we can build the trust, how to make credits into our emotional bank account. So, you build the trust. Once you build the trust, then he will be more interactive, he will be more receptive to your way of thinking, your missions, and he will be able to understand your concerns, and there is a better chance that you may be able to strike a deal which is win-win for both. Second thing is, you work with your circle of influence. You appreciate the other persons, you communicate with the person. Once you have done all these things, which basically build your emotional account, then he will be able to understand the meaning of win-win. He will think that this interaction is first in the series of interactions, and if I think too much on winning for myself and losing on your part, maybe in long run I will be losing. In long run I will be losing the trust of this person, and in long run it will not be beneficial. So, keeping long term benefit in mind, it is better if I do not lose, but at the same time I also do not insist that the other person will be losing. So, when these kind of things happen, then you build up the trust, you have more trust in your emotional account, and then there are more chances of striking a deal which is win-win on both the sides. And if that is not happening, then no deal is also an option. You can always think, you have to see the situation that no deal may be also an option. It is not always that no deal, win-win or no deal is not always the case. It many a times you have to take some step, you have to strike a deal, and therefore, it may or may not be the option, but you can keep it in mind. You can always say that if you keep on insisting on win-win, or rather in any other things, then I will not close the deal, I will not enter into the business with you. Once these things are done, then we can have a win-win kind of an agreement. But sometimes what happens, the other person who is thinking win-lose may accept your deal and may behave in what is called as the maliciously obedient person. That means, I will accept whatever you are saying, I know these are the pitfalls in the agreements, these are the problems in our situations, which you may not be, which the other person has not realized or hasn't visualized, but he will keep it in the dark and behave and accept your suggestion verbatim exactly, behave exactly, but see to it that you will lose tomorrow. So, we have to, whenever we have such kind of a deal, we should always be beware of such people who may be killing your interest in long run by being maliciously obedient. That means, they are accepting whatever you are saying in toto, but their real motive is that the system will fail someday and you will be blamed. He will say that I did just whatever you have said, whatever you have told me. Now, let us move to the other dimension of the win-win. It is called as the win-win agreement. So, once we have a relationship, we agree to certain things. Whenever we agree to certain things, we enter into an agreement. Now, there can be two kinds of agreement, as we have already seen in our previous lecture. One could be the go for kind of agreement or go for kind of supervision, and other is the stewardship kind of supervision. The go for supervision is the micromanagement agreement or visualization or supervision, whereas stewardship agreement or stewardship kind of supervision is the one in which we have trust, but we can't have blind trust. We have seen in our previous lecture there are 5 elements of agreement. It could be, one of them is result. You have to very clearly state, you have to very clearly say, tell and communicate what is the expected outcomes. These are the things I want. You should also tell them under what situation, under what considerations, under what frames of minds, under what frames of rules the other person is going to act. So, the guidelines have to be given, the necessary resources have to be made available to the person. Accountability should be fixed, that if you do not do this, you will be responsible or somebody will be, who will be responsible. That accountability for each of the party should be very clearly mentioned, very clearly told and communicated, and consequences. If these things do not happen, what will be the consequences for our cause, what will be the consequences for our mission and vision, organization, that should be very clearly mentioned and stated. Once you do this, and if the person lives up to your expectation, he has built up his trust, and once the trust has been built up, these kind of agreements will serve to building of the organization and building up of the relationships. One example has been given of the win-win management training. So, there is an organization in which the managers are to be trained, and after their training of 6 months, they were to become assistant manager, and there was a 6 months program with a budget of $750,000 for 6 months. So, the organization came to the author and they asked for some consultation on this particular project. So, he said that let me think about it. So, he gave some consultation. The consultation meant that the trainees as well as the trainers or the managers or the top brass in the organization, they sat together and they jotted down whatever are the outcomes which they want from the training. So, all the outcomes, all the objectives were clearly defined and mentioned. This kind of program was called as the learner controlled instruction. So, there the outcomes were defined mutually by the organization as well as the trainees, and then they identified the specific learning outcomes and the evidence based criteria. So, if you have learned the things, then you will be able to satisfy these criteria. You may be able to write a report, you may be able to make a financial proposal, you may be able to calculate the income and outcome, you will be able to calculate the net profit, you will be able to calculate net profit after tax or something like that. So, these are something which you either do or you do not do. You either do perfectly properly or you do not do. So, once you have passed these criteria, then we can say that these specific learning objects have been met. So, they decided that there will be 39 such SLOs, but later on they added 8 further SLOs, that means specific learning outcomes. So, whatever was the program for 6 months, they could compress it to 6 weeks because of this participation of the learner with the management. So, this is one case studies which they have mentioned. Now, let us come to the performance agreement. So, when we have win-win performance agreement, our focus is on result and not on method, that I want to get these things. How do you do? As long as you are not breaking a law, as long as you are not going something very drastically sinny, it is okay, it does not matter. For example, in the university system, he was teaching a course in which the criteria for the grades were defined, and then everything was left to the student, and the students were to pass those criteria, and then they can meet those guidelines, and then they will be able to get the grades. So, whenever we are having an examination system in the university or an education system in university, it need not be a win-lose kind of or a zero-sum kind of an enterprise. It is possible that everybody gets a grade. It is possible that everybody gets outstanding results. It is not necessary that somebody must fail, and then only we will be able to say that the examination system has performed well. It is quite possible that the instructions were so good, or the people who entered into that agreement were so thorough, they meant their selves so much that everybody passed all the criteria and they were awarded good grades. Peter Drucker has given an example of manager's letter. In the manager's letter, the employees write to the managers, and they said that based on whatever was the meeting which took place, these are the things which I have understood, and these things I will be able to do in these many days, and my next performance agreement or my performance test should be conducted after so many months. So, it is the employee who do the self management. So, the role of the manager is to show the path, set them into the motion and get out of the race. Just like when you have a race, there is somebody who runs with the people, and after he has maintained the pace, he just backs off and the runner runs on his own. So, this is the role of the manager, this is the role of the supervisor, is to supervise, to give the training, and after sufficient has been done, then he does not need to do any part, he just backs off. The consequences of these performance agreements are in terms of finance, in terms of psychological gains, in terms of opportunities, and in terms of responsibilities. People think responsible, people feel that they are cared about, people have the finances of the company increases, and there are more opportunities for doing more work. Now, let us come to the other part of the win-win dimension. It is called as the win-win system. Win-win system means it is a reward system. Most people should win, and they can win in different areas. For example, suppose there is an organization and it is giving awards of the best person or the best employee, and the award is given on the number of sales which the salesperson makes. Then only one person will be winning, because only one person will have the highest sale. But suppose they divide into categories, then probably no more number of persons would be winning. Suppose they divide the geographical areas in terms of the various locations, then for each of the location some persons would be winning, and therefore, there would be more chances of more persons winning, and if more persons win, then the organization, everybody will be, more people will be feeling good about the organization, and they will be able to contribute more towards the organization. The system, which necessarily means that you have to compete, it will not have the win-win kind of system. For example, it is not always that all the systems or all the interactions are win-win kind of systems. For example, you will be comparing yourself with the last year's performance, or you will be comparing yourself with the other individual, or maybe one organization may be comparing with the other organizations, and if they are making such comparison, this comparison will not be equal. It is not going to happen that last year's performance is identical with this year's performance. It will be either more or it will be less. If you are comparing yourself, the organization is comparing with the other organizations, it is quite possible that other organizations may be doing well, may be doing better, and you are not doing as good. So, it cannot be such comparison necessarily means that it is not a win-win kind of or zero sum kind of a comparison. All other organizations may also be having the win-win system. We can incorporate the win-win in all sections of organization. Suppose you have an organization and everybody in all parts of the organizations start thinking in win-win method, then the entire organization's productivity will increase drastically. One example which I would like you to look into the references is a agreement between India and Pakistan on water sharing. It is supposed to be one of the best agreements in the world, even though India and Pakistan are supposed to be extremely hostile country. Not very often this agreement was broached. Even during the wars, this agreement of sharing of the water used to be kept intact, because everybody was winning. It was not a win for India and lose for Pakistan. It was win for India as well as win for the other country. So, this is an agreement which is a beautiful example of the wonder which win-win strategies can do. Now, lastly, we will see about the win-win processes. Suppose you want to have a win-win agreement, how do you do? How do you go about doing things? What are the processes? What is the method of doing things? What you have to do is, you have to see the problem from other person's perspective. You should know, you already know your own missions, your own statement, your own agenda, but you should also know the other person's agenda. You should also know the other person's perspective. Then you identify the key issues and concerns which are there. That means, what are the concerns of the other person and what are your concerns, what are your issues and what are his issues, and then we determine what results will constitute a fully acceptable solution in the win-win style. Once you have identified your position, your issues, your concern, and you have identified other person's mission, vision and his expectations, then you can think about a method or a solution which will serve best for both the organization, for both the parties. It is also possible that and more than one solutions are there, and then this is where the idea of creativity comes in. You can identify more than one possible solution, and you have to use your creativity to visualize how best we can go about doing things. We will be seeing these things further in our next few lectures. This leads to the fifth habit of seeking first to understand, then be understood. When we are saying that see the problems from other person's perspective, that means we are seeking to understand rather than being understood. That is why we said, first of all, you see from the other person's perspective. Once you have understood his perspective, and when you arrive at a solution which is good for both of them, both of us, then you have already met the win-win situation. So, this is how we can go about in our win-win process. So, let me summarize what we have said in this lecture. We were talking about the emotional bank account. It is an account of trust. The money which we deposit in this account is the trust. We can build the trust in a number of manners. We have seen it. When we talk about the win-win, we are talking about essentially about the courage and consideration. Courage to say our things properly, courage to say our points properly, and consideration for others. Consideration to see the other person's perspective and see that this person also has a right to be happy, has a right to win, and he should also win. Win-win character, win-win relations, win-win agreement, win-win systems, and win-win processes. These are the dimensions of the win-win habit. In the win-win agreement, we said that the results, guidelines, resources, accountability, consequences, which are basically the ingredient of an agreement, as we have already seen in our previous lecture, they would apply to a win-win agreement as well. In the win-win processes, we have seen that we should be considerate about other person's point of view, we should identify the concerns, we should seek multiple win-win results, and this is how we can inculcate the win-win habit, and we will perfect our win-win strategy. In the next lecture, we are going to continue our series of talk. We are going to see the fifth habit of seeking first to understand and then be understood. Till then, goodbye.